Okay, are we live?
Yeah, we are live.
Alex, I think the intro has stopped, so I guess
Yes, we are
we're
live.
live. All right. So, gentlemen, I guess is Pastor Patience gonna be on?
No, the show is all
How
yours.
do you guys normally introduce formality? Do you have formality? Who introduces the show?
Well, let
The
me just
host,
start
go
off by
ahead.
introducing myself.
Okay.
My name is Bobby Bropler. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a financial professional, and I'm happy to be on this Business and Economics Forum show today. Thank you,
I'm Alex
Gabriel.
Jones. Not sure.
Oh,
Analyst, and I'm happy to be on the Business and Economic Forum.
And I'm Gabriel Carter. Uh, it's good to be here. Good to join you guys on the show. Dylan, I think you're muted.
And my name is Willie Dillon, and I'm glad to be on the show. I'm a financial crimes expert, investigations expert, and just glad to be here. Glad to be on the show to lend my voice to the discussion.
Perfect. Host.
okay. So I guess I'm a co-host and Gabriel is a co-host. So
No,
we
no,
can go
yeah,
ahead
I'm a guest. I'm a panelist here. Don't mind what's on the screen there. You're the host.
and. Also, I'm the only host.
You
Okay.
are the only host, sir.
Wow. All right. I like that. So I control everything, time and everything.
You got
Okay.
it.
Well, let's go ahead and get the discussion started. In full disclosure, I didn't come up with the title of the show today. What is the role of the Minister of Finance in Liberia's development? I don't know who came up with that, but I can guess just based on the giggles. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started, guys. Look, we just had elections in Liberia. Inauguration was this weekend. Well, yesterday, actually. No, Monday. So we have a brand new president, a brand new government. We're seeing some names trickle out as far as different cabinet positions and whatnot. Um, what's and maybe we can do a round robin. What's oh my God, this Alexis or whatever it is. I
Tell tell
hope
her
it's
to
not.
tell her to keep quiet. We're on the show here.
Brandon, go unplug that Alexis, please. All right. So I guess the question to start off with, what are some of the hopes and dreams of ordinary Liberians like you guys for Liberia with this new government? And we can start with Mr. Willie Dillon, and then we'll go to Gabriel Carter and end it with Alex Jones. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I would say that the anticipation, the expectation going forward would just be economic progress. But
Okay.
economic progress comes about through several different means. You need political stability. You need the rule of law. You need predictability. You know, um, as far as to where investors come in the country and know that if they're bringing millions into the country, they will be able to get a return on investment without any kind of nationalization or maybe change of government that would lead to them losing their investment or instability or anything like that. So the great thing about where we are today is that we've shown that after the war we've had a peaceful transition multiple times. That's one step towards that, and the next step towards it now is to be able to keep the country safe, the rule of law. But then on the economic front, that's where the finance ministry come in, is that they're going to have to control the fiscal policy of the country. Uh, and that means the tax and spending of the government. They got to keep it within manageable means. And then at the same time, they have to instill confidence, confidence in the minds of the people within the country and externally, because we are not at a place where we can sustain ourselves. We need international investment to come in to spearhead a lot of things economically for us to move forward. So the finance minister plays a major role in all of this, as far as the fiscal policy and creating some kind of economic stability in the country that would lead to confidence. Because at the end of the day, the whole economic situation has to deal with confidence. Once there's internal confidence, external confidence, then we can continue to move forward. So, in a nutshell, um, that's the hope, the aspirations, and the expectations that we have of our country going forward.
Yeah.
From my
Excellent,
perspective,
excellent. Yeah, so it's from what you're saying, it's all about confidence. As far as people being, especially foreign investors, being comfortable that the Liberian political landscape is stable, um, and I guess somewhat, what's the word? Predictable,
Yeah.
yep,
stable,
yep,
um, the rule of law being practiced. Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Carter, what's your take on things?
Great. I I think the bar for this administration is set very low, and the reason why I said it because of the previous administration that is they're you know succeeding right now, right? And because the previous administration, the morale in the country, uh, from an economic standpoint as well, everything was pretty much at a mediocre level, right? So you're coming in, you don't really have to do a lot to do better than the previous administration. Now, is that to say that's what we expect of them? No. Is that to say that's what the Liberian people expect of them? No. But I think for them, the responsibility or the responsibility for them is very high right now, right? So there's a lot that the Liberian people are expecting of them, um, and that responsibility also stems from the fact that the current administration was in power 12 years, right? So there's this level of experience that we actually allocate to them, that hey, these guys were in power for 12 years, so they should have a level of experience. um, So with that, we expect them to know what they're doing, what they're going to do. Like you've been there before, you're coming out, you should know. Like you should know how to get things started right away from day one. So that's the expectation. And the second thing is that all of us here have been following this economy for the last 6 years, even 12 years, right? But especially for the last 6 years, we know the level of the kind of economy that we have right now, right? In as much that IMF is predicting all this growth, that isn't being felt within the rest of the citizenry, right? So that means the other expectation is that whoever the fiscal manager is, who is the minister of finance and the central bank, they have to do put in policy either from the fiscal side or monetary side to make sure that they get the flat tire, put some air back in his flat tire that is on his in his country, and have the car rolling again, right? And I think for me, fundamentally, from the basic level, that's the level of expectation we have. There's a whole slew of things that we can talk about, but for me, from the beginning, as somebody who's been there, you come in, they should know what to do from day one, and at least
Yeah.
get some hope, as Delon said, instill some hope, some confidence, and just create some level of stability, and then you can start looking at the bigger picture. So that's for me for now.
Okay. Mr. Jones, do you agree with Mr. Carter? This government coming in did serve before the outgoing administration. They did serve for 12 years. so they may have some knowledge, experience, and expertise that they can use and build upon what this past government has done. Do you agree?
Yes, I totally agree that there's a level of experience. Um, one of my disappointment is why they have not, you know, named all of the different cabinet positions yet. They had 3 months to, put together a team. Not only that, even the Ministry of Finance, naming a minister, we don't know who the deputy minister, who the assistant minister, all those things should have been done by now. In fact, those people should have been working a month ago if they were serious people. Uh, so hopefully, yes, they have the experience, but does that translate now into actual performance? Um, so because the Ministry of Finance, I think, has a very important role to play in Liberia economic development. In fact, reading from the budget, it says the Ministry of Finance should formulate, institutionalize, and administer economic development, fiscal, and tax policy for the promotion of a sound, efficient management of the financial resources of the government. No other
Okay.
ministry has that responsibility. So that's why your question of why this topic was created, because I think most Liberians voted because of economic issues, the
Okay.
high unemployment, high youth unemployment, poverty, extreme poverty, uh, lack of business growth in the country, lack of foreign direct investments. So the reason why they brought this government in is to solve some of those problems. So that's what we'll be watching for. We'll be watching to see, okay, how many foreign direct investments coming to the country. We'll be looking at what will be the employment rate, how many new jobs will be created. We'll be looking at the budget management. We're now at $2 billion. How do we reduce that budget? We'll be looking at salaries. I mean, one of the discussion we had previously was, and I think the current finance minister was very adamant about the government paying people 8,000 and 12,000, right? He was very adamant about it. So this is his opportunity now to submit a budget that is reflective of Liberia and how much we should make so that money can go into investment and not go in the pockets of, you know, government officials as it's been before.
Right, right. So money should be go. I believe they what do they call it? Capital investment, as
Yes, that's it.
opposed to administrative costs and
Correct.
salaries, gas slips, new cars and stuff like that. But it should go more to roads,
Correct.
Caring.
infrastructure, and things of that nature. I agree.
Correct.
All right, let's look at. I mean, transitioning from, since you mentioned Ministry of Finance, where are we coming from with regards to the last administration's handling of Ministry of Finance? And what does Boyka and Boyma Kamara, uh, what do they have to work with right now? And anybody can chime in if you
Well,
want.
I would say sort of like what Carter stated earlier. It's like they're starting from a very low base. They're inheriting a broken country, and for the last 4 years, I guess it could be disputed, but I would say that uh, a country that has been severely mismanaged. So coming into the administration now, into the government now, running the government, they're going to have to, start, from the grassroots and try to build systems, you know, from the ground up. And I would think they should have a no nonsense approach, solicit as much help as possible from the international community, but have their own clear vision as to where we are and where we need to be, and uh, keep the people informed as to what's required. Because government is not just the people in the suits sitting in the office. It's even the everyday man. They all have to roll their sleeves up, and we all try to get productive. So they have to have a good PR campaign, a good message out there to the people that we all are in this thing together, and we all have to work together, come up with strategy, uh, on how we're going to move forward, and put the best foot forward. It's more easier. It's easier said than done, but they do have a mammoth task ahead of them. They have a big job to do. But when you're running for the presidency and you say you want to control the ship of state, you you have to be vital. You have to be strong. You have to put all your energy into it, and forge ahead with everything you got. So you know
Absolutely.
um,
Yeah,
it's a
but
big task
Carter, what's
ahead.
your take
Uh,
on it?
I think
Oh, I'm
Dylan has.
sorry. Were you finished, Dylan?
Go ahead. Yeah, I think he hasn't
yes, I'm
landed.
done. It's a big task ahead. I believe that they're up to it.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit. I'm a little bit indifferent to the the you know not the incoming minister of finance per se, but more so on the task, as Dylan said, the task that they have ahead. Um, whether he will be able to pull it off, that's a big challenge. And the reason why I say there's a big challenge, I think we talked about this on another show yesterday. The There's only 40 million in the consolidated account per the former president we are, right? There's They haven't paid civil servant for the month of January. So if you take, let's say we even allocate 25 million to pay civil servant, that leaves I think 14 million, right? So now the Minister of Finance have to figure out where do you get the other money to pay, to continue paying civil servant going forward. You know, I think Alex has something serious that I think should have happened. If these were serious people, they should have been working maybe 3 months ago. If they started working 3 months ago, they would have that figured out. You know, they would have made the assumption that we're going to come in as if there's no money in that account, that consolidated account. So that way you have that notion, it's like a chip on your shoulder to now figure out where you're going to get the rest of the money. But they didn't do that, right? So that's one. The other thing is that I think, and this is not just the incoming minister of finance. This is something I hear with a lot of people in the Ministry of Finance. I think they focus so much on budget, 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 but they fail to understand that how that budget translate into the balance sheet of the Ministry of Finance or the government, right? Budget is just a small part of understanding the fiscal management of a country. You have to understand the balance sheet, right? The your How you getting all your revenues, right? And also how you spending that, right? So how versed is he understanding balance sheet, right? How do you getting the money to come in and how you spending the money and how all of this thing flow? Now, I don't want to discredit him to say he doesn't know, but I think that's one of the things that you hear people they talk about budget, 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 but you never hear them talking about whether the Ministry of Finance has its own balance sheet and how do you fit in the budget with that balance sheet. That's one thing. The other thing is that 2018, Alex and I on another show we were looking at the balance sheet of LBDI. It's like a, how do you want to call it? Like a slush fund for the government, right? At that time they were broke. I just checked it out a few weeks ago. They're still broke, right? So, and the Minister of Finance has control over that. So you're leaving the outgoing Minister of Finance is leaving you with a, a state, literally a state bank that is broke, with a ministry that is broke. How do you fix that within the next 3 months to 6 months, or even the year going forward? Where do you get the money, right? So that's what I said. There's a bigger tax ahead than people actually realize, right? I will say this one thing, and I'll turn this over to Alex. The last thing is that Alex mentioned as well, which is true. We have a debt of 2 billion, which is true, but we only have $223 million in our reserve, right? To their credit, they did a lot to increase the reserve from 94 million to 223. So that is good. But that is against a debt of 2 billion. That is pennies, right? So in as much that they might have things figuring out in terms of how to pay a civil servant, there's a much greater mountain ahead to climb, which is the debt, the continuity of continue to come up with revenue to pay the civil servant, and eventually how to deal with the debt later on that could literally bankrupt the country or stagnate any uh, agenda they might have going forward. Yeah.
Before you leave, who do we owe most of that $2 billion to?
Most of it is our domestic debt. I think is about either 6 or 800 million. The rest of it is external debt. Um, Most of it is to the IMF and supernatural entities, these MDBs, the multinational development banks. Yeah,
Hmm. Wow, that's interesting.
and I would say that I think the interest financing on that debt right now, I think is approaching 100 million. So that is about 12% of our
It's
budget currently. Yeah,
100 million
correct.
a year?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's around
Well,
there.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, 100 million. Yeah. Actually, it's in the budget.
yeah.
Uh, it's actually in the budget.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that is
So the
12% of
Ministry of
our budget.
Finance budget.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead, Carter. You
Go,
sure?
no, no,
You
go
done?
ahead, Alex. I'm done.
So
Yeah.
so the Ministry of Finance budget, because the Ministry of Finance handles the domestic and the foreign debt, and the projection for the domestic debt payment for 2024 is 43 million, and the foreign is 56 million. So Carter is
Yeah.
absolutely correct. It's close to $100 million that they have to pay. The total budget for the Ministry of Finance for 2024 is 124 million, right? So if you take off 100 of that money, it's just going to debt servicing. Then you have compensation 9.4 million, and then the administrative goods services 3.6 million, subsidy. So there's no money for investments. Just looking at the budget for 2024, there's
Hmm.
absolutely zero for any kind of investment. There's absolutely zero for any kind of job program. They have a subsidy here, $1.1 million, but that's minuscule. That's nothing, and they have a grant for 10 million. So so it looks bad. And again, the Business Economic Forum is not here to single anybody out. We've been doing this. Past government will continue to do this after this government. Our job is to educate the public as financial professionals, not political, nobody think. And so how I guess my question would be, where do you start from? First of all, the finance minister, upon his appointment, needs to have a press conference. And he needs to come on shows to educate the Liberian people. We shouldn't be doing his job for him. He needs to make the effort. There's a public relations division at the Ministry of Finance, like we said. They're spending around $9 million on compensation and over $3 million. That's what our money is for. Come out, reach out to the different networks, the different programs, the different business community, uh, and lay out your plan. If it's reasonable, you will have our support. And if you need help, you have a lot of Liberian professionals that is willing to come in, like the Carter was saying. You have a banger LBDI that is literally bringing, it's a drain on the government. I think they should just they should just sell it. Basically, they should just liquidate the rest of the share of the LBDI. They can raise some money from there. You understand? They can sell some assets, land, and so forth to raise money that they can put, because you first of all don't even have the payroll figure out before I say new employment, before I say investment. Okay. And then inflation running at over 10%, interest rate is around 20%. So you need to be serious. That's a very key component. Most Liberians, they don't understand these things, so they just pray and hope. But when you look at the actual economics of Liberia, it's in a terrible state, and not just because of the last government and the mistakes the last government made. They didn't reach out. Even when they did things that were good, because they didn't utilize the media to come out and talk about it, so the public kind of ridicule them. So hopefully this finance minister, I think he's been on the show before. He's always welcome to come on the show. We are Wednesday and Sunday. We want to know his plan. We want to have a conversation with him so he can tell us what his plans are. And if he needs any advice, we can give it to the country. We're not here to support an individual, we're here to support the country. I just wanted to make that point very clear.
Yeah, definitely. You touched on a few things. I mean, one of the main themes is just getting information out to the general public, explaining the situation we find ourselves in right now, which I think is critical. Communication is key in every situation, guys. I think you agree with me. One concern that I have, though, just based on what you said, you mentioned, and I think Carter mentioned also, the payment of salaries. I believe the government has not taken pay for January.
January. Yeah.
I don't know if they've taken pay for December yet.
It was actually, I think, 2 months. They were 2 months behind, but I think they've taken pay for December. They only left for January. So
Okay, all right. Now
somebody can
just
keep me honest if I'm wrong. So
okay. I mean, just being
And those
realistic here.
and that's the kind of information, Bobby, and that's the kind of information the public needs to know. They need to know,
Yeah, yeah.
the Ministry of Finance side should be very active. It should tell the Liberian people things like that. Oh, salary is current for December. We were taking care of this in January. And by so and so time, people will get their pay. So people don't panic. And so the journalists
Hmm.
like us don't start writing, then they say, oh, we criticize. When we don't get information, we
Right,
have to create
exactly.
information.
Well, here's my question. So, in the spirit of fiscal management, do you foresee or do you not foresee a scenario where uh, there'll be some layoffs or downsizing to be able to be more fiscally disciplined?
that's a great question, and the reason why I think it's a great question because I this
It's
is
a
my
tough question too.
the reason why I think it's a great question because ideologically, this is something I believe in personally. I believe in small government. Like you should run a lean government. Yes, you want the people to do the work, but you don't have to hire uh, a minister, a deputy minister, the minister. Like you have all these assistant. What these assistant have like literally people in their offices that are not supposed to. The government of Liberia is bloated, and that it being bloated is weighing heavily on the weighing heavily in the pockets of Liberians because they're the one footing that bill. So to your question, I I will I think that would be something to do. Cut run the ministries, run it lean ministries, like cut people in the ministries and run a lean government. Take some of that save money and deploy it into some, like you mentioned earlier during the show, in capital investment that can yield some returns maybe over the next 3 to 5 years or the 6 years of their term. But yes, I do agree with you. If not, I think we said this before. With $2 billion in debt, you have to start looking at way to pay back that debt, right? To For it to not become a burden anymore, right? Because it is taking 12% of your budget. That's given if you raise $800 million a year. But the fact that we're not at 625, that will be an even greater percentage, right? So you have to cut. I agree with you. You have to cut certain places, and in that case, the best thing to do is to start, you know, trimming the ministries and making sure that you take some of that money to put it into something, um, into
Hmm.
tangible investment that can yield
Tangible
return.
investments.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's some serious political
I
implications
would
of that,
disagree with
but let
Carter
me
on
hear
that
from
one.
let me
I
hear
want to hear.
from
I want to hear
Carter,
your
I would
thought. Yeah,
Alex Jones.
go ahead.
I would disagree. I would seriously disagree on you that. Uh,
Perfect.
I think you're correct in terms of cutting costs, but in terms of head counts and jobs, I think the government should be increasing jobs. Because you have a country, first of all, it would be political suicide to start laying people off. The biggest problem in Liberia is jobs, lack of jobs. You can't grow the economy if people are not earning any income, right? Whether it's the government, you can't you go back to Keynesian economics, where during depressive state, the government come in to create either public work project just to hire people. Essentially, we saw during the COVID how much money the government accumulated just to keep people pay, even paying people for doing nothing, because that's how money circulates and economy grows. So I wouldn't advise them to cut anybody pay salary. I think
So
they
the
can
so
cut
keeping
salary at the
government
highest level.
employees. So keeping government
Yeah.
employees hired would be something of a stimulus package of sorts. Is that correct?
Eh,
Yes, I think you can
that's what he's
cut
saying.
legislative salary. You can cut elected, like the president, the legislator, the justices, and stuff like that. And you can use those cuts to hire more people. But let me give you an example. Let's say teachers. We don't have enough teachers in the country. It's clear, correct? You don't have enough social workers in the country. You don't have enough police in the country. You don't even have enough military in the country. So you need to increase employment. So
Let me,
you can't
So,
reduce the
so
headcount. You
gentlemen, let
need to
me come in
increase the
between
headcount.
the two of you.
yeah, go
I
ahead.
hear what both of you are saying, and it makes sense. Both of you actually make sense. However, consider this scenario. Yes, we need to stimulate the economy. We need employment. Obviously, you both said that. But would you consider cutting down the size of government, but taking that money and doing other things like infrastructure projects? I think during the Barack Obama administration, that was one of their focus areas of rejuvenating the economy by building roads and bridges. And how, I don't know if it was fully implemented under his administration, or he certainly talked about it a lot.
Yeah.
And and next thing you know, you see roads being built everywhere. That's a form of employment, number one. And then number two, you're getting something in return. You're getting some infrastructure, because I mean, good for goodness sake, we know Liberia needs some infrastructure improvements. Wouldn't you
Right.
agree?
Yeah. Yeah. So let me
Where
make
will you get the money from?
right. Let me make
What will you
Isn't
carry on
this
the
the
cuts?
same
clarification.
money you'll be paying the employees?
So let me make a clarification on what I was saying. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
was in Liberia in 2019. I did deputy minister of lands of mine. There was his office. There are two other assistants there, right? One that he can just call and it does something, and the other one just standing at the door to like literally run errands, right? He pays those people, right? You don't need two assistants in your office. There's no need for that, right? You go into the foreign affair, the same thing. You go into every ministry. So, in essence, I think our head count at the ministry, at the government of Liberia, I think is about, if they've cut it down, it was at 67,000 or 60,000 around there, right? You don't need, and that's what I'm trying to say is that cutting that money, you're not cutting it to go, you know, do anything else. You're cutting those expenses to deploy it someplace else, right? Even I agree with you. Cut it at the ministries, at the deputies level, and deploy it somewhere else. Now, I also agree with you with the Canadian model that you said, where you gonna get the money from? The states that those Canadian model apply to is where you'll be able to raise, to issue bonds, and people will buy it. You can take that money and go invest in. We don't have that. Even if we issue bonds, the treasury, nobody subscribes to that. So in essence, you have to find a way to get money to do that. So in essence, the one that is in your control, which is to trim the size, right? You do that. You invest in capital investments, and yes, you will end up creating job if you do investing in infrastructure, right? The biggest part that I think they need to focus on instead of worrying about, hey, that would be a political suicide, is how you make the government more economic friendly, that people will come to invest in the private sector to create jobs, as opposed to thinking that the government is the only way, that in a downturn economy that the government only, you know, agency or entity that can create jobs. So that was the point that I was trying to make. But I do agree with you. Yeah.
Okay, Alex, you were gonna say something.
Yeah. Okay. So what he's saying essentially, so Ministry of Finance from the record here, it shows they have 920 employees, right, on the books for
Mhm.
2023, 2024. It's expected to remain the same. So you're talking about reorganization of employment or employees.
Yeah.
So instead
Yeah.
of you
Yeah.
having a minister having three assistants, maybe he only have one. Instead of having two secretaries, he only have one. And then move
Exactly.
that person from that ministry to someplace else. Maybe go to the
Exactly.
county. Maybe go, on a government project. I agree. You can do that. But I was just saying overall in terms of the 60,000 employee, let's use that number, for the sake of argument. I think the only way that people will feel some kind of economic improvement is that number has to double. That number has to double to leave because you have, let's say, the workforce of Liberia is at least a million. Okay, the people who are capable of working are over 18 years old. All right, it's at least a million, and you got only 60,000 people employed. So how do you get more people with some kind of income? And that's what Samuel Cho were trying to do in terms of what you call harmonization. But it failed because it was the intent of it was good, but it did not really create more jobs for more people. What it ended up doing was cutting people's salary, like nurses, doctors, and lower people. And the legislators still got their $15 million budget. Speaker of the House of Representatives they got $2.5 million. Deputy Speaker got $1.5 million, and these are all information on the budget. So I'm not making it up. So I think the priority, you do need to increase employment, especially in, like I say, education, health, sanitation, the things that Walker talked about, those areas, to get more people into this area. Now, if the economy is growing and you have more industries, then you need more people to monitor and regulate it. So you got 900 people, and the people don't even have an effective website. For instance, Ministry of Finance, can I go online, register a business within 1 week? No. Okay, that's something. Those are the low hanging fruits. If I can't sit here and register a business within 48 hours in Liberia, the government is failed. It's a failure because that's
And
one of
that
the
is
easiest thing you can do,
the point
and
that
you're
I'm trying to
generating
make.
money for doing it. If I can make a payment online for my ID card or for my taxes or my business, then you may as well just pack her and leave because the technology is available.
So
The technology is available, and the cost of doing it is so low. You just need the expertise. But as it's been proven, these people do not even have that expertise. They don't even have the expertise to where all the ministries activities, you can go online, you can go to a website. Some of the ministries don't even have a website. They
let
don't
me
So
even
let
have a
me
that's
come
the
in for
website.
a
point.
second,
Yeah.
Mr. Jones. Just before I lose this thought,
Mhm.
you said that Liberia needs. We have about 60,000 government employees. We need double that. Did you mean we need
Mhm.
more people employed, or did you mean that the
Yes.
government needs to have? Oh, so generally we need more
In
people
general, not
employed
in government, but in we need.
in
I
general.
hope. I hope he
No, no,
means.
no, 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 no. I'm talking, and I will be very specific here. The government payroll is 60,000. Yes, the private sector payroll is different. The one that I'm talking about, you need to double the government payroll
Why?
because
That will put a
if you go by
burden.
Keynesian economics, hold on now. If you go by Keynesian economics, right, where the private sector lacks to create poor employment, the government has to come in. Okay, you can't force a foreign investor to come to your country. You can't force somebody, LBDR, or Echo Bank to hire more people when if they're not making a profit. So what the government, what I'm saying,
But
especially like in
but
you
if
have
Where
project.
if you hire people, let's say you cut down on payroll, and you take that money and you hire people for the tons of infrastructure project all over the country, bridges, roads, different things that we don't have. You redirect that money there and hire people in those areas. At the end of the day, isn't it the same thing?
So let me say why I disagree with Alex here, and I think I think you're getting the Canadian model uh, thing. So in a perfect democracy or economy, that is perfectly fine, right? Let's say here in the United States, you can issue treasury bonds, people will buy them, the government takes that money and create an infrastructure policy and invest that money and hire more people. In our case, people like to say unique Liberia case, we don't, in as much that even if we have that ability to issue treasury, people they're out there, but nobody buys them. Even the financial institution
Oh,
do
the
not
banks are buying
subscribe,
them.
right? They don't subscribe to all of it.
Gotta.
So if let me like so even if you were to do that, so you remember at the beginning of the show we said the wage bill we can put it at 25 million every month. You saying that we should double the workforce, that would be an additional 25 million, right? Just for another
Okay.
60,000 people, right?
Mhm.
Now, if you had infrastructure money to go into the economy, you have an infrastructure project, you're building bridges, and you need additional 60,000 people, I would say yes. But you don't have the capital to deploy. I agree. That's a good way to stimulate if you're not getting the stimulation from the private sector or the economy as a whole, it come to a halt or it come to a slowing halt and you need to revitalize it. That's will be the ideal thing to do, where the government can take that money and invest it themselves and create more jobs. And in essence, they will hire more people. But where are you getting the money? How are you going to issue those treasury? Who's going to subscribe to it? Even if you issue it, the banks don't subscribe to all of the treasury that are issued. And if that was the case, we wouldn't even you and I wouldn't be having this conversation of the challenges this ministry is having right now. That is the challenge that I'm trying to tell you. So that's the theoretically, that's the what should be done. But from a practical standpoint, it is cannot be it can't happen in our case. So that's the problem that I'm trying to the square that I'm trying to put into a circle here. You know?
So let me
Okay.
clarify something. Okay.
Yeah.
Two things. One is the government of Liberia has been able to borrow a substantial amount of money to their treasury bill. So that's information. If you go to the central bank of Liberia, in fact, right, all of the domestic, most of the domestic debt, there is the money that they borrow from banks issuing treasury notes. So the $43 million that they pay, that was what two and were able to borrow. They actually they borrow almost what $800 million, between $600 and $800 million locally from
For the
institutions, from
term
financial
6 years.
institutions. Correct. The problem isn't that the country does not have the means or the tools to borrow money. I think that's not the issue. The issue here is that only a smaller percentage of the workforce, okay, the top level, from assistant minister, legislator, justices, president, they command over 50% of the payroll budget. So, for instance, the House of Legislator and the Senate alone, and the U.S. Embassy, the ambassador made that point. Out of the $600 million budget, they alone got almost 100 million. Where did that money go? Go to the different offices, not to staff. So they have the money, they can borrow the money, but it would take the political will now. First of all, like Burma Kamara was saying, they need to reduce the budget of the top level people. If you reduce those budget, So let's say, for instance, the president is getting $20
That's
million
what I
dollars
was
for his
saying.
budget,
It's ideally.
right? The president can get 5 million or 2 million, and then you have 15 million. How much can 15 million hire? $15 million paying people $250 a month can hire a substantial more amount of people. The speaker,
But what are
how
you
much is
going
he
to be
making?
doing with those people?
2.5
What are you
million.
gonna right? What are you gonna be doing with those people? You got to put those people to work,
Education. Okay.
right?
Yeah. And that's the second partner in public works project, right? In making sure there's efficiency, policing. One of the problem in the country is you don't have enough police officers. Even when you have the police officer, you have a problem with corruption and fraud. You need to hire more fraud investigators. You have a problem with brain drain in terms of economic planning and financial analysis. You need to hire more financial analysts. You need to hire more banking and economic experts to run these different programs. Or else, even if you put the money in public works project and you don't have the capable people, or the people who are there are not adequate, or they're not enough, right? You are still collapsing. It will still not
Okay.
work, which is why the ministries in Liberia are not working, because one, you don't have enough capable people to make sure that things are efficient. So you have a lot of
Wow.
corruption, you
Okay.
have a lot of loopholes, you have a lot of. That's the point.
Yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
More or
Yes.
less. More or less. So, as we begin wrapping up here, there's another side of this picture that we need to look at as well. Besides the employees of government and civil servants on the books who are alive, I understand that people who are no longer employed with government or who are not even alive, that money is still being allocated to as far as salaries, and somebody somewhere is collecting that money. Is that true?
So
Isn't that a
there's
form of serious leakage?
I think this is one of the things that Mr. Cummings doing his campaign used to talk about, as far as plugging the leakages, right? Um, it, it I don't think that only applies to what we call ghost names on the on payrolls, right? But also places where corruptions are taking
Prevalent,
places,
yeah.
right? And I, it's I think let's give credit to what credit is due. Benjamin Kofal, Ben Fine, of you gotta know him, right? One of his things he talk about, he sits in the diaspora here and say he's running for president, but he makes some good points, which is
Hey, we're not gonna laugh at anybody who's in the
no,
diaspora
he
running
he
for
talks some.
president. Okay?
We need to have legitimate government IDs and identifications, right?
Okay.
And that needs to be applied to everybody within the system. That way, you're able to clean the system. If you go collect your paycheck, you don't have a name, you don't have an identification, you don't get your paycheck, right? And the way you can do that is having by identification, which Ben has been a very big proponent of, right? We don't have that. We don't have that, right? Even if we don't have that, there's a way you can clean the system. As I said, Liberia at this stage, we don't need people where you say, hey, I appoint Alex as the Minister of Finance, where Alex just go sit in the office and fold his hands and point fingers. You have to be hands-on. I mean, if you put Alex, I want to see Alex roll off his sleeves, and he should be the one working and leading by example, right? What do I mean by that? You can put somebody as a minister of finance and they're going, that should be the first thing to do. Look at the system, make sure you check everybody name by name who is on that in a entire administration. Whoever else is not there, clear the name out. They shouldn't get paid. If you someone you were in the system and I clear your name, you're not getting paid, you will physically come to me and say, "Hey, you clear my, I don't see myself in the system." And whoever else is not on that list will be. It's the way you do the little things is how you do the bigger things. The
Yeah.
smaller things needs to be done. We don't need people who are just so uh obsessed with titles, and you just sit in the office, you put your hands on with chair, AC blowing you. No, you have to be hands on. Like any minister needs to be hands on. You need to be hands on. And I think if we have that, we will fix some of the problem with the the ghost names and those things. But I think something that Ben talks about is having identification where each and every citizen born or who died can be identified as well. So I think that will help solve that problem. Yeah.
Hmm. What is your take,
And make
Mister?
sure that identification is digital,
Exactly.
because you don't
Right.
want to create something where somebody can go and copy and print out. If it's digital, then one, it can serve the entire country. You
Hmm.
don't have to come to Monrovia, which is a big problem.
Yep.
A lot of time people criticize people for being online, but we have to recognize you're in the 21st century. Some people who go to work in Liberia, they don't physically need to be to work. I haven't gone in office for 5 years, and I work in with people. So you think Liberian government is more important than multinational banks? They send me my work. I log into the system and I do my work. The same thing with all of us here, right? Why in Liberia people have to physically get in a car, go all the way, spend 1 hour in traffic, go to Liberia, go to the Ministry of Finance just to go log into your computer? That's those are some of the things that you need to innovate, to save
Hmm.
costs, save time, let meetings. All of us in different states. All of us can work
Hmm.
on a project more efficiently than if we're sitting down together in person. But the Liberian people
Absolutely.
haven't gotten that yet. They
Hmm.
think that you have to be even physically in Liberia to work. Why, if you need cadre expertise, let's say you need to carry on to revitalize the Liberian, let's say find revenue. All you need to do is set up a portal, web portal, what you call employ Carter as a consultant, and say, Carter, come up for playing with insurance so time, have your online. Carter does not even need to go to Liberia, because Carter is working with spreadsheets and data. Going to Liberia is a waste of time and money.
Hmm.
It's nice to go and meet somebody and shake hands and go drink beer, but all the world economy today, they operate digitally, right? Even the central bank is issuing digital currency.
Hmm.
When they transfer money from one bank to another bank, nobody is involved. That's all computer. We have the same computer, we have the same hard drive, but again, it comes back to the level of experience. And unfortunately, most people got a degrees in Liberia, but they don't work in that environment. So they don't know it and they're afraid of it. And so it will help them to get a lot of consulting to fix the technology in Liberia, fix the websites of all the
Yeah.
thing, get
So we have a.
consultants to come in from all around the world. That would be my
I
advice
agree
to you.
with you in one of the things that you said is and I think I read a case where
Hey, Carter, if
someone.
you just give me a second here, I think we got about 6 minutes left, guys,
Okay.
to wrap up. So maybe we can start,
Yeah, let me
formulating
say
our
this quickly,
opening
right?
statements.
There
Mhm.
was a person I think in Maryland who needed to register their car, right? They had to come to Monrovia. I think there was some document they needed. They had to come to Monrovia to do that before going back to the county. Like this is, I think, something Alex mentioned. You should be able to be in any other county, whether register your car, a land, buy a
Your
land, and
business.
ID, get authentic,
Yeah,
like to
let
be
me
able to do that.
interrupt you for a second, Carter,
Right.
because I wanted to mention that when Alex said somewhat of the same thing,
Hmm.
different strategies for creating a more efficient system. Guys, why do you think that is not happening? Does it go against um, the status quo of what Is there a reason why things are made more difficult?
I would say
You
this clearly, just we don't know. I think
you
Alex
think
said it.
so,
One,
or
yeah,
is it that people
we
are intentionally doing things because they want to
no,
keep it corrupt?
I don't think it's intention. It's just that you 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 might see somebody with a degree, right? But does
Mhm.
that person have, let's say you get a computer science degree, right? But does that mean you have the requisite experience to be able to set up systems and be able to see how the system work? I suppose
Let me
so,
answer that.
right?
Let me just be very candid with you. Look, in Liberia, the elephant in the room here that we're not addressing, we need to address that elephant. Nobody wants to set up a system where you can be all the way in Maryland County or Grand Juda County and register your car so easily online. You got to come down, and you may have to drop something to expedite your processing. That's the reality, Alex. Would you?
That's the reality.
That
They
in
don't
that
want to
case,
That's the
do it.
reality.
in that case, the government is shooting themselves in the leg, because if you are able to do that, it will be faster for people to register their car. The faster it is for people to do things, the quicker it is for you to get the revenue, the money into your coffers, right? And they don't understand that aspect of it. That the easier
Alex,
you make things, the easier it becomes for you to collect the
Gabriel,
revenue. I think Alex said that earlier.
Gabriel,
Yeah.
Gabriel. I think the problem we have in Liberia, I could be wrong, and Alex, you can feel free to chime in, but I think Liberia's problem is, and some people call it a failed state. This is where Gabriel Carter does not care if the larger government is able to generate revenue, as long as he is able to. We brought this up when we are talking about tourism
Mhm.
last year when we did the tourism show. Why is it that you don't waive visa fees for certain countries? Well, because a visa fee, whoever it is that's collecting visa fees knows that it's something that they're collecting. They don't want 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 more tourists to come in and put the money in the economy because it doesn't come to them. But the visa fee, is coming straight to you. So
Right.
do you think these guys care about what happens in the larger economy, or what happens in their office? That's what I want to know.
And having that sense, I think the exact way you're thinking right now, every
Hmm.
leader should be aware of that. One, and because if you are aware of that, that will make you hands on now, right? If
Yeah.
you come in now having that awareness, you will say, because I know if I put, let's say you put Gabriel in, Gabriel will not want the system being digital. So you coming in, you're not relegate
Hmm.
that decision to Gabriel anymore, because you know if you relegate it to me, I won't get
Yeah.
it done because it will cut out of my pocket. So this is where you become hands on, and make sure that happens, so Gabriel doesn't have a say in it. Yeah, you're not undermining him,
What
but you're
what
just
I was
making sure that it gets
told,
done.
because I asked some questions, and this is what I was told. Okay. Gabriel Carter is the big guy. He's the
Right.
director or whatever. But he has his minions that collect those fees and whatnot, and it trickles up, right, Alex? It trickles up to the big guy. So he's directly involved. It's not like it's just the guys down there. Everybody has to pay a certain a service tax every day.
Okay.
And
So
so
let me be a little
he, as a
facetious here.
director,
Okay.
knows that if this new system comes in,
It's
he will be directly affected.
right.
Okay. So let me be a little facetious here. Let's say you're a corrupt person. Okay.
Yeah.
You're born corrupt, you remain corrupt. And let's say you're stealing $10,000 every month
Yeah.
because the government is making $100,000 every month.
Hmm.
The stuff that Carter and you guys are talking here means that the government will be able to make $1 million a month. So how much are you
Hmm.
going to steal now? 100,000.
Right.
So they're just ignorant to the point where they hire the economy, right? If you do these things and
All
there's more
right.
money in the economy and there's no more private sector, I'm not encouraging corruption, but I'm just saying if you're sensible, why you think in Nigeria, right? A former what you call oil minister, worker, former minister, cabinet minister can be worth tens of millions of dollars or even billion, because Nigeria economy is almost $500 billion. Okay, in Liberia, I mean, how much can you technically other economy that is what $4 billion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Revenue 600, $700 million. That's peanuts. I mean,
That's
for
peanuts.
a big Fortune 500 company, that maybe office furniture and travel expense.
Yeah.
So
But
the
anyway,
idea
guys, we
that
gotta bring
you are
it to a
limited.
close. Alex, maybe you can
Okay.
continue with a closing statement, and then Gabriel, and
Yeah,
then
let me
we'll
close
wrap it
here.
up.
And I will close by answering this person's young man question. He says, does Liberia has
Oh,
the digital environment? No, it does not, but it can't. And to have that, you need to get consultants. People think that everybody has to work for the government. or to be in a position. In fact, the US government has just as much or more people working for them that are not employees. All the services, all the military, they're all consultants and contractors. So the things that the government, the digital, the NASA, even Elon Musk, he is the one launching the NASA rocket.
Hmm.
That's not NASA anymore. So the government needs to focus on, okay, we have a limited capacity. How can we bring experts in to create digital environment, to save costs, to create industry, and to have more efficient management? That's the only hope. So that's what they need to do, to create, first of all, that, first of all, to come up with a plan. They don't even have a plan. I think that's the first thing,
Yeah,
an economic plan that will lay out the projections and will lay out everything. But again, that's my closing remark.
yeah.
Thanks for having me. It was a wonderful show. Carter, brilliant man. And as well as DeLon
You're
and stuff.
also a brilliant man, Mr.
I learned a
Jones.
lot.
But thank you so much. Glad to have you. So we'll move on to Mr. Gabriel Carter to give his closing remarks, and then we'll wrap it up for tonight.
So I don't want to be a pessimist, but I just want to be realistic with all of us here, including those that are watching. Um, we are broke, and I think it was Bobby that said you can consider us a failed state. You may want to deny it if you want to be patriotic or whatever way you want to feel and say, oh, we're not broke, we're not a failed state. I would say these three things of why we're broke. As a 5.23 million people country, we have only $223 million in our reserve. That's literally our savings account. 223 million. In Alex words, that's peanuts, right? That's dirt. In addition to that, your consolidated account, they only have 40 million. What is 40 million? In addition to that, we are in debt to the tune of 2 billion,
Two
over 2
billion.
billion. Servicing on our debt is 100 million, which is 12% of our budget. We can't even raise a 800 million dollar budget right now. The government that is in power right now, I don't think they really, I don't, even if they don't understand, I don't think we understand the challenges they have to face. We are broke, and if they don't get their acts together in terms of figure out how they're going to first take care of the debt, raise the money to pay for it, and continue this for the next 6 years, we're going to be in some serious challenges. I don't mean, this is not me saying it. Just go look at your numbers, and it will have a rude awakening on all of you guys. Forget the
Okay.
politics that we normally do. Go look at the numbers, and
Yeah.
that will allow you now to hold the elected people that are coming into power, hold them accountable to do what they need
Animal.
to do. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I think it was a fruitful show today. Hey, this is our contribution to helping to solve the problem in Liberia. I don't think it should just be just necessarily shows like this, but we have to figure out ways how we can get on the ground and actually contribute. We have to figure out ways how we can contribute in our communities here in America. I think we do a very good job as Liberians. We do a very good job at talking, being on shows, talking politics and all that. But we don't do a very good job when it comes to sacrificing ourselves and our time to contribute. So, gentlemen, thank you once again for your time. You're not being paid for this, neither am I. And I guess we'll see you all next week here on 45 TV, 45 City TV, same time, same station. Thank you so
Sunday.
much.
So
Oh, Sunday.
Wednesday and
Sorry,
Sunday. Sunday, same
Yeah,
Wednesday and
time.
Sunday.
I will send you guys the bill. Thank you.
Yeah, I will stay on my own too. Okay, bye bye. Good.
All
Bye
right.
bye.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
gentlemen, and have a good night.